Morning, everybody. Welcome to this Thursday morning webinar series. I'm Chloe Tetro, the coaching lead here for Ready Care. This morning, we're going to be looking at the topic of burnout and that lovely little phrase, you can't pour from an empty cup, which is something I was told years ago, and I absolutely love it. How essentially you need to put on your own oxygen mask first and then look after others. So for today, I'm going to be looking at some of the physiological and psychological aspects of burnout. I think more or less, there's a lot of talk about the physiological aspects of it, but it can be difficult sometimes to recognize when we are in burnout if we don't have some of the physiological aspects. I talk about some of the rumbling tummies, getting sick often, all these different things. Oftentimes, actually, particularly women, can be in a period of burnout for months and not know it. And what I'm hoping to do today is just show some of the lesser discussed, more psychological attributes and to really pinpoint how separately they can look like you've gone very grumpy. You've gone very grumpy, cynical. You might be getting, low or depressed or losing the color from your day. But really, if you tot up all of these things together, they're very, very common telltale signs of an individual that's psychologically experiencing burnout. So I'll go through those in today's talk. I'm also going to look at some of the impacts because I suppose, particularly with high performers or people that just get on with it, right? Quote unquote, just get on with it and have difficulty putting themselves first. And why I chose to call this You Can't Pour from an Empty Cup is basically where burnout is prevalent, there's still a desire to do, right? You've got a family to look after, you've got a team to look after, you've got this to look after, you're leading the scouts, you're doing this, you're doing that. They all need you, you just have to get on with it. And there's this thought process that actually you just don't have time for a burnout. Other people might, isn't it grand for them? But actually you don't, you just have too much to do. So I just want to highlight how you not looking after yourself is going to impact the things that you care about so much that you're willing to put yourself last for it. So we'll have a short chat about that. And then I want to really just plug into, okay, if you've ticked a few boxes here and you are recognizing some of the signs, what can you actually do? Because you're at a little bit of a loss. You don't really have a schedule that allows for a schedule and a bank account that allows for checking out and going to the Maldives for, or what they used to do in Victorian times, go and take the sea for a while. Prescription order from the doctor, go and be by a seaside town for a little while. Okay, if you don't have the space to do that, what can you actually do that will fit into your daily life? So I hope that you find this helpful. If at any point you have questions, as always, pop them into the chat section. So the important first thing to mention with burnout is it doesn't happen overnight, very seldomly. It's something that's creeping up and up and up, right? Or down and down and down, actually. It's closer to the experience of it. It's a gradual type of malaise that will start by being really consumed by something, and that can be work, it can be family, it can be a problem, right? And that's another big thing is oftentimes burnout is framed, and I'll be talking about it within this framework actually for half of it. It's framed within, is your environment very stressful? And this is somewhere that I've been caught up with oftentimes in my own life is I've experienced burnout, but I don't have a high-flying CEO corporate job in finance. I don't have 6 kids. So when I found it very hard to recognize I was burnt out actually because the stressors oftentimes aren't external, right? There's individuals out there that are really, really well built to handle stressors, right? Let's say that they have great bounce back, great resilience. They can do 101 different things and spin all the plates and they're having a great time. And there's some individuals that could have a fairly, quiet life, but will get exceedingly stressed out by interpersonal relationships not being the way that they think, or, they could hold on to things that stress them immensely. But then when they reflect back, they say, oh, jeepers, like I couldn't be burnout, sure, because I work part-time, or I only work 4 hours a day, or I work in a job that I love, these kind of things. But actually, the stress in of itself is really the kicker, and that can come from any type of external environment. It matters more about what's happening inside here. So overworking and long hours are a part of it. I'm just doing a zip. And it's oftentimes the one that catches most people. As I said, not all people, but most people. So consistently logging excessive hours at work is a huge burnout trigger. It can not only exhaust you, but it can literally endanger your health. So if you're working more than 40, more than 50 hours per week, more than 55, there's a 35% higher risk of stroke and a 17% higher risk of dying from heart disease compared to somebody doing a 35 to just about 40-hour week. So overproduction of cortisol or stress hormone, overstretching, not allowing for time periods that are just blanked out in your calendar as I'm doing nothing, at least for an hour, I'm doing nothing. So if you're in an always on environment, and technology has really blurred that boundary where there used to be work, there used to be home life, or there used to be home life where, people could call on you, and there used to be being out of the house where nobody can get to you. You can go for a walk for an hour and God's sake, just be left alone. Now we're kind of always on. We always have the little device that can go doot, doot, doot. And even if it's 8 o'clock at night and you say, I'm not checking my work email, most of us are like Pavlov's dogs, right? That we're basically programmed that if we sense the things going off, it'll drive us insane if we don't look at it. Other people have fantastic self-discipline and more power to them. So those unclear boundaries can erode our resilience, because essentially we're never fully relaxed. And even if it's a case that it isn't work-based emails or the family WhatsApp saying, oh God, what do they want now? Sometimes it's even the ding of, Twitter or X or whatever it's called nowadays, Instagram, Facebook, and it could be people that you like, but you just go, oh God, just go away from me, everybody. That feeling will keep your mind busy constantly, and feel that sanctum of inner peace that's just yours is consistently being eroded. So there's a lack of control and support that go along with burnout. That's a very big part of it. So environments where people feel they have little control over their schedule. This is why I say it can be work, it can be home, it can be a thing in between where you could have quite a quiet life in those, but something else is happening here. You feel that you have very little control over your workload, your schedule, and there's a huge lack of support for you. You feel like a lonely island, where it's either a thing where it's expected within a family or work environment that you just take it on the chin, and you feel like you have no one to speak to about these things. So being micromanaged in that, and again, every time that I say these things, you can apply it to work, you can apply it to personal life. Some personal life individuals are fantastic at micromanaging. They'll say, why did you buy that one and not the other one? Or is that the way you're going to hold the pan? Or whatever it may be. Feeling like your decision and autonomy power is shrinking is hugely eroding to your sense of exuberance, vitality. If you feel unsupported and unappreciated, whether that's any of the examples that I've mentioned, it adds to that mental load. Humans absolutely need to feel heard and need to feel valued. And without that, stress feels even heavier. And they'll talk about the epidemic of loneliness. A lot of that has to do with the fact that people feel they can't voice their hurt, concerns, not feeling valued. And values, which brings me on to my next point, is a huge part of what drives us, But what makes us feel totally existentially and spiritually disgusted, and I stand by that statement, if there's a clash, right? What I mean by that is if you're in an environment that conflicts with your core values or that treats people unfairly and you're seeing that, and it's not who you are. You believe in everybody being heard, everybody being valued. You believe in fairness. You believe in bullies not getting away with things. You believe in hard work should be rewarded. So if somebody does nothing and somebody does a lot, it's not fair that they're seen on the same level, whatever that may be. Burnout risk skyrockets, right? If you're working at a company whose mission you don't believe in, you don't like it, you don't believe in it, and you actively go, oh, this feels like it's actually hurting me because it's so not me. Or if you're in a group or a family environment that is really thinking of the sound of the Titanic up against the ice, that scraping up against what is most important to you, that is going to hurt. And it's going to hurt in a way that makes you feel less in control, more stress, more burnt out, and like you are shrinking and shrinking and shrinking because whatever you want to say is not going to be heard. So that's a huge, huge part in it. And let's not forget about personal tendencies in life situations that can heighten burnout risk. Things like if you have a high achieving personality, right? They used to be called type A. I don't really think that's a thing anymore, but if it is, that's what I mean. People that feel like they have the burden of responsibility of everything find it very difficult to switch off. And oftentimes there can be a false equation of your worth and value as a person is on the line based on your output. If you're not constantly doing things and taking care of business, you are nothing. You don't exist. It's fine for them, but not for you. That is a huge blind spot. And I say it as blind spot because oftentimes individuals that have that way with them can tend to wear it as a badge of honor, that they think, okay, this is a fantastic way. Somebody's got to do it. I'm the champion of the team, the this, the whatever. I'm the person that takes care of business. But who is taking care of you, right? If nobody's taking care of you at work, at home, in your family or friend group, and you're not taking care of you, things are going to collapse fairly quickly. So let's recognize some of the physiological and psychological signs, and emotional, spiritual, all the rest of it. So exhaustion is the main one. You will feel drained all the time. You might have trouble sleeping, and even if you sleep, you wake up feeling tired. So fatigue is your constant companion. It's just holding, you're dragging it up the road with you. People with burnout might experience more headaches, muscle tension, gastrointestinal issues, as I mentioned, because of that persistent stress. So this exhaustion isn't just physical, right? It's not just a case of, I need to sit down and I'll be fine. It's emotional. So stress uses loads of ruminating brain power. Your brain uses the most energy in your whole body. It's just a total energy miser. The more you ruminate, the more emotional you are, the more you're, whatever this is, ruminating, we'll say ruminating again, the greater fatigue you're going to experience day by day, because essentially your brain is doing all these different tasks in the background and you're going, gosh, I only just got up. I don't know why I'm exhausted, because there's a whole 242 tabs open in the background going blunk, blunk, blunk. So your cognitive wariness is going to start to drop. Of course it is, because you're holding all these different tabs in your system. It zaps your mental sharpness. You might catch yourself being more forgetful, unable to concentrate, making more mistakes at work. Decision-making feels harder because you have decision fatigue. You have fatigue overall. You're absolutely exhausted. Your cognitive function is going to start to come down. Your memory is going to start to come down. Your ability to think laterally is going to start to tunnel vision, because when you are in a high stress internal environment, your body's releasing cortisol and adrenaline to beat the band. And what that does is it stops you from doing the kind of lateral thinking to more the razor sharp focus in front of you. Now, unfortunately, if you couple that with the fact that you're more likely to make more mistakes in your razor sharp in front of you focus, that's not a great recipe. Now, depersonalization and cynicism. Bit fluffy, but Very, very common. So it's a fancy way of saying basically you start to become a bit detached and negative or negative. You might feel a growing mental distance from your colleagues, your family, your friends, your responsibilities, like you're on autopilot or just going through the motions. So people will experience burnout, will often develop a cynical or negative outlook to people, places, situations that they might have cared for in the past. I know when I experienced burnout, lots of things that I really loved and believed in and that really sparked me up, right, for a long period of time. I just started thinking, what's the point? What's the point? Why am I into this? Why is anybody into this? It's all just words, really, which was really unlike me. So if you start to see yourself viewing things that previously were very important to you and that cynicism is coming in, none of this really matters, I might as well just lie on the floor. It would make the same impact in the world. That kind of thing. Obviously, it's going to diminish your performance. It goes without saying. You're not going to be as into it. You're not going to be on it as much. You might start to feel ineffective, incompetent, probably likely are going to start to feel that imposter syndrome creeping in due to the burnout. And your physical stress reactions is you're going to be higher tension, quick temper, irritability, sleep impairment. Your capacity to deal with other people's things, it's me censoring myself there, your capacity to deal with other people's problems is going to shrink right down. Your window of tolerance is going to be like the eye of a needle. And where usually you'd say, gosh, I don't know what's happening. Most of the time I have great time for this person. But right now, if they open their mouth and breathe, I just think, what now? What is it? What do you want from me? Because you've nothing left to give. You're trying to give. And it's not in the giving that's the problem. The problem is you haven't filled it. You haven't filled the cup and you're saying, all these people taking from me constantly. So you start to feel emotional helplessness, hopelessness, trapped, taken from on a constant basis. So that's more feedback into that cynicism. So it's very important to acknowledge these things when they're coupled with things I've mentioned before, is check the box, check the box, check the box. Is this burnout? Now, why is this something that's worth looking at? Which I hope I'm making the point that it is anyway. But what I mentioned is, if you're trying to give to other people, right? And let's say they're people that you still have time for, they're your kids, they're all right most of the time. Why it's important for you to fill up that cup is, it's often said stress is the silent killer, right? And if you're pumping your body full of cortisol continuously in a level that it should never have that amount of cortisol, you are going to weaken your immune system. You're going to be more susceptible to infections. You're going to just keep getting sick, basically. You're picking up coughs and colds to beat the band. It's also going to bring up the inflammation in your body, right? Higher risk of any itis type of condition, because you're basically fueling your body with lots of inflammatory markers that shouldn't be there, but they're there because of a high stress environment. You're more likely to eat badly. You're more likely to be exhausted and want something sugary, carby, crisps, this, that, and the other. So your risk of cardiovascular disease goes up, high blood pressure goes up, type 2 diabetes, digestive disorders, non-alcoholic fatty liver syndrome, and all a host of beautiful things like that. So these things in and of themselves are very dangerous. They're very, very dangerous and lead to much, much higher risk of cardiovascular disease. So your relationship and quality of life also, it will spill into those. Remember, if your fuse is about the size of a pinhead, you're more likely to blow up at somebody, maybe somebody that just really did not deserve that on that given day. So making sure that you're looking after that is vitally important. Now, just give me 1 second here, lads, because it looks like my laptop's going to die. So just bear with me a second. And I wish I had on hold music because it's draining the battery very quickly. So I'm just going to move that over here. Oopsie doozies. Let's have a look. Plug us in. There we go. Now so, are we back in the room? We're back in the room. So you want to be looking after that, because essentially over time, if you're blowing up at people that don't deserve it, left, right, and center, that's going to be a problem. as a given. Your social connections are going to suffer. Your ability to show up in people's life, you might just disappear from people's lives for a little while because you can't be there. You can't be present. You do not have the capacity for it. So things like your life satisfaction are going to start to come down. You might have a good life on paper, but your experience of it is going to start to be drained. The way you show up for other people is going to start to be drained. The way you show up for your social activities, your hobbies, your family, your friends is going to start to be drained. If you're capable of showing up at all. I know myself, if I'm in a burnout, I go a little bit hermit mode, to put it lightly. So protecting your well-being directly protects your relationships, your happiness, your health. Neglecting that self-care, it's not just bad for you, it can really, I suppose, rob your loved ones of the best version of you, and also rob you from the healthiest version of you. And if you're somebody that thinks that way, add an awful lot of worries to your family, friends, and loved ones, because they can see you start to disappear more, right? And that's very difficult for anybody to see their loved ones go through. So let's talk about breaking the cycle now that I've adequately depressed everybody. So hit the pause button. That is the absolute first step. Rest and recovery. So allow yourself to rest. It is non-negotiable. It is non-negotiable. Now, you might have a life where you can't just take time off work. You can't just retreat to the sea, whatever it may be. Prioritize sleep like it's medicine, because it is. It is going to be medicine. It requires you to, if you broke a bone, you'd go to the hospital. They would do all the different scans and say, yes, you've broken a bone. Here's what we do about it. And they will tell you to rest it. And they might give you some strengthening exercises to do afterwards. And they'll say, you absolutely have to do this every single day for it to heal and get better. And for some reason, we hear that an awful lot better when it comes to physicality of our leg, for example. Jeepers, I can't go driving anymore. You won't be able to go driving anymore if you're absolutely zapped, right? And you're just not into showing up in your life anymore. There's a different type of thing, but it's the same mechanism. You need to rest. If you can't do a breakaway, create a breakaway in your day. That sounds very fluffy. What I mean by that is, if it's 2 minutes every hour, can you sacrifice 2 minutes every hour? You can. Like, everybody's got time for that. Check how much screen time you use on your social media. Can you do a third of that towards just spending time with yourself, not on social media? Can you use a third of that time to just journal? Just write down your own thoughts. No one is ever going to see that. We can write the most embarrassing, vulnerable things in there. No one is ever going to see it. Can you listen to some music that you used to love when you were 16? Just throw it on. It could be metal, it could be dance music, and just throw it on and say, for these 3.5 minutes of this track, I'm just going to enjoy it. I'm just going to put it on and allow myself to be in the moment with it. These might seem arbitrary, but they're just little pauses throughout your day where you remind yourself that you are an autonomous person that needs that check-in period. You matter just as much as everybody else does. So breaks are not a waste of time, right? They are recovery time. They boost positive emotions. They reduce fatigue, particularly if you can get out into nature. So nature has a calming effect on our nervous system. So even 20 minutes to 30 minutes outside leads to the biggest drop in our cortisol levels, our stress hormone, which helps to reset from tension. If you think of time in nature as those kind of hospital exercises for yourself, nourish your body with good food. Healthy, nutrient-rich foods are going to help create what's called GABA, which helps to basically make you feel better. So cut back on the sugary foods. They will only make you sad. Processed foods, same story. If you have to drag yourself into the kitchen for one healthy meal a day, start that way. You do deserve 20 minutes of your time to make something that will make you feel better. Quick and easy is quick and easy for a reason. It is void, right? Pizza foods, ready meals, fine in an emergency, but if they're your everyday food, you are what you eat, they're rubbish and they will make you feel rubbish. Movement, same type of thing, whatever you can manage. It doesn't need to be like high intensity interval training, which actually, if you're in a hypercortisol state, I would usually say don't do that. Do something gentle first. Allow yourself to check back into your body instead of punishing it with something that is going to bring up your stress hormones even more. High intensity interval training brings up your cortisol as well and your adrenaline. So just for a period of time, try doing something as gentle as going for a walk. And I meant it when I say throw on some tunes, have a dance around the kitchen. Do something like that where you're moving and releasing some of that tension. Now, the biggest thing, and I always go mad with the time here, so I will try to speak a bit quicker. Reconnect with what matters most to you, because that's where most people feel the pain point. So the major psychological aspect of recovering from burnout is realigning with what is important to you, purpose, values. It often feels like everything is pointless, so you want to go back into, what do I know, hand on my heart, whatever happens in this world is important to me, and get more of that thing in your life. You are starved for that thing at the moment. That's what drains the color an awful lot. So being able to set boundaries is huge, right? Being able to say no and practice in small ways, right? If you're somebody that has huge difficulties with putting boundaries down, there's loads of great videos online about it. You can have a look how to set boundaries into YouTube. Have a look at that on one of your break 2 or 3 minutes during your day, or 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever you give yourself. Being able to say no is half the battle, right? You've created a bubble of, this is just me, no one is going to take from me. Once you're inside that bubble, it's time to reconnect to actually what gives you joy, right? And I think I made little I made little banners for this. So the most important things to reconnect into when you're feeling burnt out are joy, because likely you are lacking joy. And I think of it like a medicine, right? If it's not there, you're going to start to feel less joy. If you inject it into your day little by little in very tiny amounts, if that's all you can muster for now, so be it. Purpose, try to reconnect into why you're doing something and take your time with it. Like, if you're in a particularly cynical headspace, this is difficult, and I do appreciate that. Connect in with the things that are very important to you and make a column, right? I call these the snakes and ladders, right? Self-care audit. I'll come back to the support in a second. Self-care audit. So make a plan, put a line down the page, and do snakes on one side, ladders on the other. So things that bring you down, things that boost you up, right? You as a person overall, and have your list all done out, and try to consciously say to yourself, I'm going to get more of these activities in my week because they are medicinal. You need them to avoid cardiovascular disease, avoid being a grouch that sets fire to their relationships throughout the week. You need them to function better at work, at home, at school, whatever it is that you're doing. More of the things that boost you, and they can be so small, and less of the things that drain you. And practice saying no in very small ways first if you're somebody that struggles with it. Now, if you're in high intensity mode, this is the best way to get yourself back into the body, to get your nervous system from here to here a little bit. So inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, inhale for 4. So do that 4 times and try to do that once an hour. That is going to be huge for getting your nervous system back so you can actually hear what your internals actually have to say. So overall, oh yeah, and the support aspect of it, absolutely, before I close up, finding anybody. So journal first, right? If you feel very disconnected, journal first, because that's going to let you know what your thoughts are before anybody else is coming in with it. Journal first, and then find any trusted confidant. That can be somebody in HR, that can be a therapist, a counselor, a close friend, someone that you trust, that if you say, I just need to talk, I don't need you to fix it, I just need to be able to be seen and heard, is crucial, because these things, joy, purpose, and support, are the things that are currently broken. These are the things that you need more of to help boost you back up. So I'll summarize now again as fast as I can. So remember, burnout is a signal, not a failure. It's your mind and body's way of saying that the current pace and pressure is unsustainable. You need to have the conversation at work if you're overloaded. You need to have it at home. Take your time with it. Get yourself built back up first and foremost before anything. If you start to feel that drain in your everyday life, you need to make time for your wellness. You will be forced to make time for illness if you don't make time for wellness. Recognize the science, recognize the physiological, psychological, emotional signs, and start to create some space for yourself where you can begin to rebuild it. I have gone over time as usual. I hope you found that helpful. Apologies about my laptop having a ding dong halfway through. And we will see you guys next week. And I hope you find some time this week, today, every day, just for you. Right. Find yourself now. Bye.